Okay, time for some YouTube. Let's see.
New year, new me. Reinvent yourself in 2026. Become a new person in 2026. You won't recognize this year. Changes your identity. Change your life video to
So, I've been thinking a lot about how we talk about change, especially at the start of the year, because Happy New Year, everyone! New year, new me. But I actually don't want to change myself into someone new, if that makes any sense. Like, I want to improve myself and I want to be everything that I know I can be. But every year, without a doubt, I will see videos that talk about how to be a new person, how to change into a new aesthetic, how to create a whole identity. There are some videos that talk about how to do this in 30 days, 15 days, 7 days even. And I just think it's a little crazy and a little bit overwhelming. And while I know that these phrases are meant to be motivating and are meant with well, I really think that wording matters more than we realize. For example, anytime that the new year comes along, I feel very overwhelmed making a recap of my previous year. I just feel very overwhelmed trying to do that. Second of all, I also feel very overwhelmed when the new year comes along and they start asking about New Year's resolution, goals, any plans, any things that I want to do. Because sometimes I don't have anything clear right at the beginning of the year. I feel like I started building on my goals slowly, and well, I don't worry too much about what others think. I know that it can be quite overwhelming and it just makes you feel like an oddball if you don't have everything like set in stone. And this has led me to realize how much words can shape how we see ourselves. In this case, the language that we use doesn't just describe change, but is defining it in a very specific way. And that type of framing can be harmful even if it's meant with well. Not because change is bad, but because it paints it in a way where in order for us to grow or change, we have to be someone completely different every time. And growth doesn't require you to be someone new. It just requires for you to be more grounded in who you already are. Now I'm going to get a little bit more technical here because I'm going to be using a psychological perspective, as I feel it connects to something called the self-concept theory, and it's the way we understand who we are, our identity, and how we experience ourselves over time. The person that came up with this theory is Carl Rogers, who is a humanistic psychologist, and he described the self-concept as the organized, consistent set of beliefs we hold about ourselves. And he talked about 3 key parts. One would be the self-image, which is how we see ourselves. The second one is self-worth, the value we place on ourselves. And lastly, the ideal self, that is who we hope to become. Now, when all of these parts are aligned, our inner world makes more sense to us. Who we are and who we're trying to become don't feel so far apart. Rogers would call this congruence, and this gives us a sense of peace and stability. Now, another thing that Rogers emphasized was the unconditional positive regard. Now, this is more on the therapeutic humanistic side, but the idea is that we are worthy of care and acceptance without conditions attached. And this is where self-esteem and self-love often get confused and kind of bundled up with one another. But they are very different things. Let me explain. Self-esteem is more tied to productivity, achievement, and completed goals. You know, that sense when you do something right or something that you wanted to do, you win that race, you win that game, you get to what you wanted to do, you complete that achievement that you've always wanted. It makes you feel good about yourself. Your self-esteem is really up in the sky and you feel like the best thing ever. But then when life happens, missed goals can start to feel like personal failures, and those failures we start to use as a way to define who we are. However, self-love is very different. Self-love is unconditional. It means that it doesn't matter if we don't achieve those goals, doesn't matter if we didn't do what we sought to do or some things didn't work out. It doesn't mean that we can't love ourselves or who we are. And this self-love helps our congruence when it comes to the self-concept theory, because when we love ourselves, we don't put our value in the things we achieve. It doesn't matter if we don't achieve these things, we are still valuable to ourselves. And this is what truly gives us inner peace and stability in life. Because, sometimes things don't always go as planned, and a lot of the times that may be out of our hands, and even if it's within our hands and we couldn't do it, we shouldn't feel so bad about it. For example, and this happened this past 2025, I've been a straight A student since I started college, and I was doing fine. Even during summer I had straight A's, but I was taking a lot more classes than I usually do. I was very overwhelmed and a lot of things were happening at the same time. And I finally got my first B. And while that did make me feel bad and I crashed out because I'm like, oh my god, how did this happen? How did I let this happen? That was just my self-esteem being hit and, hurting. But at the end of the day, I know that getting a B doesn't define who I am as a person or as a professional or as the person that I hope to be. And I know that I'm worthy of being compassionate and, saying it's okay things didn't go as planned or as I hoped for. Did I want to get all A's once again this past year? Yes. Yes, I did. But it's okay if I didn't. It is what it is at this point. Now, moving on, I also think the internet plays a huge role with this topic. Mostly because we're just surrounded by it in general. The pressure, once again, as I talked in the beginning, it's there about reinventing ourselves, new aesthetics, new identities, new versions of ourselves every year. And trends change, they come and go. It reminds me a lot about fast fashion and how we're just changing identities as if we're changing our clothes. We make identity a trend and we start treating it as something disposable at this point. For example, I love fashion. I feel like I love fashion. I used to love fashion, but I feel like I'm so out of it when it comes to trends. I know coquette, whimsy, I don't know if cottagecore is still even a thing or if it changed name, but the aesthetics have been changing when it comes to clothes and I just can't keep up. And it reminds me of this because the way we dress is part of our identity. It's what we feel comfortable wearing and it says a lot about who we are. But growth shouldn't be about swapping one self for another, just like we swap one fashion trend for another one. Growth is more about nourishing and building on who we already are. And sometimes real change isn't an aesthetic. It isn't fast and it doesn't follow a calendar. So for me, this year, instead of reinventing myself or being a new person, I'm choosing to be something different. I'm the same person I was last year, just with more insight, more experience, and a clear understanding of what I want to work towards. So I'm not becoming someone different. I'm becoming a better and more improved version of myself. And that process doesn't erase who I've been, the mistakes I've made, the things I didn't like about myself, the things that I do like about myself now. It just builds up on her. It gives me character development. So tell me, what are your thoughts on this topic? Because I know that for me, this is more just my opinion on things, but I would really love to hear what you all think about this topic. I would really appreciate it if you leave a comment on your thoughts if you feel, comfortable sharing them. And before I end this video, I want to thank you so much for spending this time with me and listening to me. I would really appreciate if you like this video to like and follow. I hope to be posting more little things like this around here. And, well, Happy New Year, everyone! Until next time, bye-bye!